So, hello everyone, and welcome to the Entrepreneur's Journey. Thank you all for joining me again today. As you all know, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, actually, the show is all about where we interview entrepreneurs from around the world, coaches, therapists, consultants, who have an inspiring story and journey to share with you all. And today I have the pleasure to speak with Jacqueline Fairbrass. And before we get into the actual show today, we actually had her due to come on in a previous show, but she had an accident which caused us to delay. So it's a real pleasure to have her actually here today, so she can actually join us live. So it's really good. Today the show is actually called Transforming Lives from Stuck to Spectacular. So before we get started with your journey and story, tell us a bit more about yourself, Jacqueline.
Hi, Andy. Thanks so much for inviting me on, and thanks for bearing with me. Not a techie person. Finally got here. It's meant to be. So tell it about me. What can I say? Next week I'll be 59 years old. There you go. There's something about me that's a big story. So I've got a lot of history. I've been on the planet for a little while. And I'm happy to answer any questions you've got.
Excellent. So, in regards to your business and what you do at the moment, what is your main focus with your work?
That is such a good question. I'm always asked that question, and it just seems such a pat answer when I say, well, I kind of help people with anxiety. Because it's so much more than that. Anxiety, depression, the whole 9 yards is so much bigger a picture than people realize. So what I really do, and this is something I've only just recently started admitting, is I create a safe environment for people. Because people feel like we're suffering anxiety, stress, depression. I mean, just the whole thing when I couldn't get on Blab 3 minutes ago, and it was like, everything becomes overwhelming. So I create a safe environment, whether that's people coming to see me in person or whether they're online. And within that safe environment, I help them get unstuck and moving on their life. So I create a place where people can be who they are and where they can be loved. And I love them. I love them all up. And then once they're loved up, they start to learn that they can love themselves. And that's when we truly become unstuck. Yeah.
Excellent. Fantastic. The work does sound amazing, I think.
Not something you can just write out on a website. Sounds like I might be a bit of a predator or something. But
I think the interesting thing that we all go through anxieties, don't we? In some way or form. And self-love is key, isn't it, with everything?
Absolutely. And it's so much easier for people to turn that out and feel they've got to be loving people. They've got to be loving everyone around them and supporting everybody around them, and forgetting that you've got to fill up your reserves first. So this has been my journey now professionally since 93, and the background was through getting into holistic healthcare. So for me, it's like the basis of everything that I have done over the last 20 odd years as a professional in holistic health has come down to that the seed, the bottom line is love. Yeah.
And it sometimes can be a tough journey itself. The journey of self-love.
Honestly, I think for many of us who are, kindred spirits, it's the hardest one. Yeah. It is, because it's, I believe that, those of us who join together in the healing fields, we're enduring virtues. Words, I would say, she uses earth angels, or I would maybe use the term light workers. Yeah. And we've come to the planet to help people. And we get bewildered when people won't accept our help, and we often put ourselves last. We always put ourselves last to begin with, until we learn to put ourselves first and learn that we're worthy, we matter, and filling up our, I use teacups. It's like filling up our teacup of love and self-worth, that we can then overflow it to help others. So many people, with regard to coming into a place of being anxious and having anxiety, really feel that their teacup gets depleted before they can give out. And that's when we learn to see love. Yeah.
So before we move into your story, I want to say hello to some people in the audience today. We've got Helen Crosby, we've got Dave Moore. Thanks for joining us today, and we've got a few more guests as well. So thanks all for joining us. So in regards to your journey of self-love, or your journey into the world of holistic health and what you do today, where would you say your journey started? I mean, I would say with a lot of therapists, it started in a place of pain. We're not happy. You know, do you ever find yourself in that place in your life?
Oh gosh, I think it's healing is an onion. I use the onion. It's like you get a layer off and you think you're healed, and then another layer comes on. But my journey really, I mean, I think our journeys begin as children, and it's only in hindsight that we can look back and see it. But the real shift that I saw was when my eldest daughter came along, and by the time she was 4 years old, she was diagnosed as hyperactive. It was before they even had the label ADHD, but which, you know, she certainly is labeled with now. And the answer to this dilemma was to put this little 4-year-old on medications, which were pretty much experimental medications. Yeah. And, you know, off you go, dear. There, take your child and drug her up, and she'll be drugged up the rest of her life. Yeah. And that to me was my turning point, where I dug in and I said, no, there has to be something other than this. Yeah. And I will hold the space for anybody who feels that, you know, that is their path, that they do need the medication. We have choices. But for me, the choice was no. And from there, I really started a journey. And it was once I hit that point of complete submission, surrender to what was going on, to surrender to spirit, to surrender to everything. I'm hopeless. I don't know what the hell to do, but I know that that's wrong for me. And that's when things changed, and people came into my life that helped me. Yeah.
So your journey came very much through your daughter with the ADHD, and it caused you to say, you know, I'm not happy with, you know, some of the things that have been put upon me in terms of experimental, you know, drugs or things that you've been asked to say. And it was you stepping into your own sort of world and creating a different outlook to health, let's say.
I mean, almost. I mean, this is like almost looking at a different reality to how most people at that time saw medicine. I mean, this has grown exponentially, and we see lots more people involved in holistic healthcare now. But at this time, I mean, we're in the 80s, and it was like, where do we go from here? So it was, in hindsight, I could see it was trailblazing. At the time, it just felt like, this is what I have to do. I've got no, you know, there's nothing else to do. So it began a journey of, you know, self-experimentation and experimenting with my family.
So you say just a moment ago that it was a whole new world, and I can imagine it is. You know, it's an unknown world we're not aware of often. So where did you get the advice and support? Were there people that you could look to give you that inspiration and guidance in terms of moving from, you know, a modern approach to a more holistic approach?
The very first person who sent me off on a journey was actually another Montessori mum. I had, like, my girls were in Montessori, and I was like I can't carpool today. I can't bring Sarah in. You know, she's out of control. And she sent me to someone who was a medical doctor, but he specialized in hyperactivity, and he believed in taking sugar and preservatives, artificial colors, artificial flavors, everything out of the diet to bring the body back to balance. And he started, it was like Montessori mum to this doctor. Yeah. And he just he opened up this whole new world where I suddenly started looking at blood sugar as, you know, as something, but also started looking at what was in the food we ate. Yeah. So from there, I went to another doctor who was a herbalist, and that was one of my passions. Once I found herbalism, it was like, this is like, I just love it. Love the whole process of bringing nature into your life and taking control.
Definitely.
And that's where, and then it's sort of people led to people. And I just found that by staying open, by staying and not being closed to anything. I mean, yeah, I did some like strange workshops where I came away going like, I don't know what they were thinking about.
That's good.
Yeah, out of my comfort zone. I remember being at something where, you know, they were talking about channeling, and it was like, whoa, you know, if I'd known about this, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And now I just embrace that. Yeah, like everybody does it. We all get messages like, where did that come from? You know? Yeah. So it pushed me out of my comfort zone. And I think that is one of the biggest things that people need to do, is let go of control and just like try something. So I went to weirdo workshops and came away and going, whoa, you know, never doing that again. But it's fun.
It's amazing, obviously, with that open mind, that you went on so many different types of workshop in such a variety of different fields, you know, but all in the world of holistic medicine, and you could say like spiritual work as well at the same time.
The spiritual component, just it gradually came in. You cannot, in my opinion, you cannot do health and wellness without bringing that in. Mm-hmm. And it for me it's the grounding point. I think you know, that comes first. If you look at lots of indigenous cultures, their healing comes from their spirituality, not the other way around. Whereas within modern Western allopathic medicine, we tend to look at the physical, and it's only the physical. It all is part and parcel of it, and coming at it from a spiritual perspective is just a different way. So when I got into the herbalism, it isn't just like I can go and buy a herb off a shelf and take it. It was like, it was old school stuff. It was like, go grow the plants, learn them, connect with the divas, you know, do some weird hippie things, dancing with your plants in the garden. Not compulsory, but it opened up such a new dimension to my life, and continues. It's like onion skin. It keeps, I'll pull another layer off and go, wow, you know, the connection through spirituality is tremendous.
Yeah, and I see Dave Moore's put down there as well. Relax, nothing is under control is a mindset he has as well. And I completely agree. It takes time to embrace that, doesn't it, at times? So if I was to ask you now, so how does this evolve into your business? How did this allow you to then create a practice out of what you've learned and bring it into your everyday life in terms of business?
I love that question, actually. I always get excited when people want to know about that because it was how I was bringing up my family. It was how I was living my life.
Yeah.
And I went through, obviously, we don't do family in a vacuum. Life is, everything blurs. And I'd been working in the corporate world and I was very unhappy. I was unhappy with myself, and I decided to take a sabbatical and that I was going to do something different. So, but I didn't know what that different was. And I experimented. I took a year off and I did all sorts of different things. I made crafts in the basement. I taught children art. Yeah, like if I go into something, I'm in 100%, like, let's explore everything. Yeah. I went back to school and started taking interior design. I did all these things. At the end of the year, though, I was still going, I don't know what to do when I grow up. Yeah. And friends of mine, people who loved me, who sat me down with a glass of wine and some chocolate one evening and said, you know that stuff you do as a hobby? Yeah. Have you ever thought of turning it into a career? Yeah. And that's when I realized that people had already started coming to me. Like, people knew that I was into that, and the neighbors would talk about it. And, they'd get a phone call from a kid who at the high school who was giving a presentation and be like, I'm worried about my throat. I'd be like, oh, get some slippery elm. And I realized I already had started to do it. So at that point, I said, okay, I'm going to make this a career. And yeah, and it's like, I look up now and go, who was guiding me?
What I love about it the most is it came out of a part of you, and often I find some people make it about what they've learned and not about who they are, and it's all about who you are that is really going to make that big difference, So, sorry, I thought I'd mention that.
Oh, I'm so glad you did. I love that. Yeah, and what it took was some people who loved me and who could see me to bring it out, because I didn't see it in myself. It was once they held the mirror up for me that was like, oh yeah. And so I just started. I had no models to follow. There were no Facebook groups to tune in and say, how do I do this? So I learned as I went along. And then and I was still studying, and I got serious about studying with teachers. After a couple of years, I realized that I was learning from some of the most amazing healers, but they weren't teachers. And part of my background had been teaching. So then I brought the teaching in, and I started writing courses and teaching other people how to do this, which is sort of eventually now it's led to me. I still do a little teaching, but it's led to me coaching. So I look at it and go, wow, everything I did played a part. Because even the corporate world, though it was an unhappy place for me, I can look back and say, well, when I was in the accounting office, I was the person going around in busy season, like massaging the shoulders of the tense accountants and making sure everybody had a cup of tea and, ordering in the pizza and stuff like that. I was always doing that self-caring, but I also brought that self-caring, that outer caring too, that caring for people. But I was learning skills to turn it into a business.
And I was going to ask how you brought everything that you learned on your journey together, but it makes sense. Obviously, just looking back straight away, you've got your old world where you were the teacher, and then you've got your newer world where you explored the holistic work, and you brought it together to provide your coaching and your holistic practice that you have today.
Absolutely. And that to me is something that I teach people, because people will come and they will say, oh, I should have learned this years ago. And it's like, no, I have actually sat in a class teaching colour therapy and had someone in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, their 50s and their 60s all say the same thing. I should have learnt this before.
Definitely.
So it's just, I remember it clearly because it's something I use as a teaching example.
Yeah.
We learn and we embrace it. We relearn it because we always knew it, but we embrace it when we're ready to. And everything we do along the journey becomes part and parcel of who we are. I remember distinctly a time when I sat there and went, wow, everything I've done has just sort of aligned and come together now.
Yeah. I find it interesting. I would say I was quite lucky in terms of when I was opened up to the world of this holistic world of being and living, and I would say it was very much in my early 20s and I could say even late teens. You know, I was still growing at that point and learning, but all the transformations happened through that time, and I know I've got a lot of transformation to come. I'm not dismissing that, but it's, you know, learning and studying this stuff from a young age. I feel quite privileged because I've had been open to the world and can share it with others, you know.
Which is beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's so relevant now. I mean, it was like back in the day, it was trailblazing, it was cutting edge, and now it's becoming more mainstream, and you're still learning and growing, so you can still bring people in, and that's beautiful.
If I was to ask you then, when you felt like some big shifts happened in your life, when you started to see things change and you started to create this happiness within your life, like moving away from the corporate world, living holistically and being present and happy with what you're doing, was there a time when, you know, it all did come together, not in just a physical way, but in a mental way as well, an emotional way?
I would say, to me, that's another onion skin. Like it's like you transition, you get to that place and you think, yeah, I've got it. And then something happens and there's a shift. And I would say have been through another one of those shifts very recently, which has had me feel like, I use the expression, the dark nights of the soul, where you have those moments where you do go, I'm lost again. How did that happen? I thought I was on the path. I thought I'd got it. I thought I'd got it all together. And then it's painful again. And then you come out of it and go, oh, I learned something else. I learned something new. I learned something more about me. And when I learn about me, I learn about everybody around me. And I feel every time I go through one of those layers, I feel more connected to people. At the same time, the other side of the coin, more distant, because when you're in the dark night, you just feel so alone. And then when you come out, you feel that connection. Does that answer your question?
It makes complete sense. It is an onion, and we do go through different stages we feel different transformations, and it's interesting that you say you went through the dark night of the soul, and you know, recently, and I felt like I've been through the same thing, you know, very recently. So it's nice to have something in common in that respect.
Exactly, yeah. And people will often think, you know, because we are in a position where we are coaches and we are helping people, that we don't go through those. Like, we've got it all together, you know. I'm Oprah here with everything is all together and I know everything and it's just more aha moments. No. Yeah. And I'm sure Oprah has her bad days too. But there are those times, and that I try very hard to communicate with clients as well, that I'm still learning and growing and I haven't got it all together, and it's okay to not be perfect. In fact, it's compulsory.
And going back to some comments in the audience and on the stream as well. We've got Helen said she learned a lot from the corporate world and she never dismissed it, which is good. Dave Moore said he spent 20 years in the corporate world. One of the biggest lessons he learned was common sense wasn't all that common. And I thought that was brilliant.
Yes.
It's so true.
That is so true.
If I was to ask you, we're coming to the end of your journey, let's say, and then we're going to invite some people into the show itself to ask you some questions.
Lovely.
So based on your journey so far and what you've learned and getting to where you are today, why would you say what you do? Why would you say you do what you do today based on the journey that you've had and the lessons you've learned?
That's where I get a bit emotional. That's got to do a bit of the emo. Going back to starting the journey with Sarah, there were times I felt so alone, so abandoned, betrayed by people who were close who didn't support me. I do what I do because I don't want people to feel like that. It's a horrible place to be. So if I can offer some comfort, old-fashioned words, succor, but if I can just be there for people and say, you're not alone, I believe in you, keep believing in yourself, I just get a warm and fuzzy. There you go.
No, that's fantastic. I think that's why I like asking that question, because it's not a physical thing. Like, I do it because, I get all this money, I feel successful. It's because I do it because I feel that need to pass on what I've learned to others, and connect with others.
Definitely,
so
Andy. Definitely.
Where can we find out more about yourself and your work then?
Well, JacquelineFairbrass.com is where I have my coaching and stuff. Schoolofct.com is the site where you will find my courses in holistic healthcare, and of course Feeling Absolutely Fabulous on Facebook, where I am there every single day sharing. I share a tarot card reading and a recommended tea of the day, because I am a big fan of tea. And I'm really just feel that whole thing and need to uplift and keep things light, because it can get really heavy. So I have a little ray of light on Facebook as well. Feeling Absolutely Fabulous. Excellent.
No, I love it. And being English, I love my tea as well. There's nothing more comforting than a nice English tea.
Exactly. And I'm in the States, and I'm infiltrating and getting more tea drinkers in.
Excellent.
And I'm luring them to the dark side.
Excellent. Well, what I do is I always put the recording on my website. For those of you who want to listen to recording, it's also available on iTunes, so should you want to listen to it back there. And it's also available on SoundCloud as well, should you want to listen to it back. And those of you who listen to recording, find it on my website, www.theentrepreneur'sjourney.tv, for all the information on previous episodes as well. So now it's come to the time to open the seats. The seats are already open, actually. I haven't closed them, but as you already know, this is very much an interview show, the first half of the show. The second half of the show is all about you as the guests in the audience. So feel free to join us if you have any questions for Jacqueline, and ask her more about her journey and story, because we could only cover what we could cover in the 30 minutes. So jump in and join us.
Yes. Come on in.
One thing that I wanted to share with people today, those of you who are looking to uncover your journey and story and live a life of a bit more purpose and passion yourself, I've just started a new package called Group Program, and it's called the Hero's Journey Group Transformational Coaching Program. And it's all about helping you align with yourself and guiding you on a path so that you can live a life of purpose and passion through the whole steps of the hero's journey. If you don't know what the hero's journey is, you can find out obviously more about that on my website, www.theentrepreneur'sjourney.tv. And we have a guest in here, Helen Crosby, who's having problems, it looks like, with the internet. Are you there, Helen?
It's my webcam.
Okay, that's all right.
I don't know what I've done. My webcam's not registering at the moment. It'll probably come on in a second. It just takes a while to load up.
There's
yeah, you'll just have to imagine what my face looks like.
Oh, we can see a little circle. We know we can see your beautiful face.
If you're having trouble, there's a video icon in the URL bar, and you can. Oh, I think it's just because there's poor signal strength on the internet, actually. So it cuts off the video first.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, thanks for joining us. Anyway.
Yeah. Hi. Hi, Andy. Hi, Jacqueline. Hello.
Good to see you.
Hello. My question to Jacqueline and to Andy, actually, because I'd like to hear what you both have to say about this, is what advice would you give to somebody who is still in that situation where they're in a job that they're not fulfilled by, and they know there's got to be more to their life, and they don't know what to do? What would be the first step you would tell them to take?
Go for it, Jacqueline.
Well, depending on the person's situation, the first thing is to start, for me, it would be to start looking at your hobbies and your downtime and seeing where your passions do lie. But, you know, there are often opportunities where people can take time off work. Like I worked with someone recently last year who was absolutely hit burnout, and she was able to get 3 months off work. She wasn't on full salary, but she was on a reduced salary, and in that way she could step back. And that's the most important thing. And that's why I say, like, focus outward on new hobbies, or, you know, spending time with people, because when we're unhappy in our workplace, we tend to get bogged in and it becomes larger than life. And if we find other interests, it can tend to put that back in a smaller space. But if you can get away and walk away from it, turn off the phone, not be on call 100%, you know, anything that takes you away into other interests helps put that into balance. And then sometimes you can find that there is joy in what you're doing. You just weren't seeing it. It was like you were looking through blinkers. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. That was interesting.
Good.
Excellent.
I wasn't expecting that last bit about there may actually be joy in what you're doing. You might just be missing it because too much work and not enough play makes Jack a dull boy and Jill a very boring girl.
Exactly.
I like that one. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's fine. I wasn't expecting that.
Well, that's the thing. If all we're ever focusing on is what we hate about the job, or I don't like this, or I don't like that, I don't like, you know, the person I sit next to. If we can start looking on where are the joys, and sometimes that can cause a big enough shift that we start finding the joy, and then it starts leading to other joys. You know, it's like, I don't like sitting next to this person, but I'm going to focus on all the good things. And the next thing you know, the universe aligns it that person moves.
Definitely.
But while you're focused on, I don't like sitting next to them, I don't like sitting next to them, they're going to sit there bugging you every day, and that's where your energy is, and that you attract more of I don't like.
Because what you resist persists, of course.
Yes. Yeah. Tenacity can be good, but tenacity can also bite you in the bum.
One thing that I wanted to add there as well, because getting a bit of feedback. Apologies, 1 second. That always helps. Yeah, I always find it interesting that throughout life we are told to do certain things and be a certain way, and that causes us to live a certain life that we want to lead, and that's not necessarily who we are. So I would say, in a nice way, I would ask you to think about yourself, and like you said, like Jacqueline, find your joy in what you're doing, and for that time that you take out for yourself, don't listen to the others that are telling you what you should do or what life you should be living. Instead, align with what you truly want in your life. And the hero's journey, I talk about like your road of trials and tribulations. You're going to face challenges and obstacles, but that really creates who you are. It's a journey of uncovering who you are, and first of all, it's just aligning with who you are and what you want to create, and finding your bliss, and not being afraid to create your own life and forge your own path, because it might be different. It might be out of the ordinary, like Jacqueline's work or mine work. In some respects, it's our own path, and it's incredible. But I thought I'd just add that. So.
Yes, and I'm just going to tweak on the end of that too. It's also give yourself permission to change, because what's your bliss now might not be your bliss in 10 years' time. And so often what we do culturally is we get locked into something and we think that's it, and now I have to keep doing this. Allow yourself to be human and to change.
Definitely.
It will grow. It will modify.
Excellent. Did you have any more questions, Helen, as well?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
Okay, excellent. We are.
You know where we are when you have your questions.
But again, where can we find out more about your work again then? Now, to pass it on to more people.
JacquelineFairbrass.com.
Yeah.
And Feeling Absolutely Fabulous on Facebook, and schoolofct.com. And, come on to Feeling Absolutely Fabulous and drop me a line, send me a message. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'm not the greatest Twitter sphere person, as we found out today. Facebook I've got a pretty good handle on. Yeah. And I'm approachable. I offer a 15-minute free consultation to people, and very often that's what gets them unstuck. It will just take that little bit of time. It isn't a sales pitch. It is an actual gift that I offer. I call it a tea for two. Yeah. And I do that online, and I'm happy. I really do get a buzz out of helping people, and I'm approachable. Please.
Fantastic. And a final question: how could you leave us today with a nice bite of inspiration?
Oh, that's a sneaky one. I wasn't expecting one of those. Don't waste your time crying over spilt milk. We all screw up. We all make mistakes, and we will continually make mistakes. So don't waste your time beating yourself up, looking back and going, that didn't work. Yeah. Move forward. Keep your head up. Keep looking forward and to where you're going next. And just love each other. I know it sounds kind of trite, but come from that place of love for yourself and for other people.
Well, thank you again for joining me, being an amazing guest. We're going to stop the recording here. We are live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time and 3 p.m. Eastern Time if you're over in the States. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you all again next week. And I will say bye for now.
Thank you.
The Entrepreneur's Journey. Create your empowering business story. Interviewing successful entrepreneurs from around the world to share their inspiring journey to success. Tune in live every week for your weekly dose of inspiration. Visit www.theentrepreneur'sjourney.tv for previous episodes.